IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
Here's your smart fact of the day. We were so used to Netflix always gaining subscribers that it comes as a shock when it reported that it lost in the first quarter of 2022 over 200,000 subscribers. It's the first subscriber loss for Netflix from over a decade. And if these losses are expected to continue, Netflix forecasts a global paid subscriber loss of 2 million for the second quarter. This episode of Smarter with Sid, we are looking at Netflix and its response to this subscriber loss, the reasons behind it, and figuring out what potentially is the way ahead for Netflix. Let's go. So let's understand a little bit of context. Even though it's lost 200,000 subscribers, what does it mean? It means that Netflix's subscriber base, which was 221.8 million in the previous quarter, has gone to 221.6 million. So basically, they're still doing okay, but essentially the company estimated its service is being shared by 100 million additional households, over 30 million, which are based in US and Canada. So now from here, what I understand is there has been an overdependence on the US and Canadian market. And obviously the European market has got a huge hit because it suspended service in Russia, immediately leading to a loss of 700,000 subscribers. Netflix probably would have also had a bit of a problem in the slowdown because of maybe a little bit of inflationary tendency that has happened, especially with its subscriber base and its paid service. And also, it's been having an issue with password sharing, which was the typical customer hack of sharing a password. And I'm not being all judgmental about it, but people share passwords in order to kind of beat down Netflix's large subscriber pricing issue that they might have as compared to Amazon Prime Video or anything of that sort. Now, you have Russia gone, you have Central and Eastern Europe also having a slowdown. You also have, inflation and, people sharing passwords. And again, customers have not reacted particularly well with passwords being shared, etc. Now, you also, in addition to that, have a tremendous amount of competition. So competition has been particularly rough with, Disney Plus Hotstar coming in and Hulu and so many other things. I think the overdependence on the US market, the sort of Russian issue, inflation, password sharing, so many factors, right? Most factors which are beyond your control, like maybe competition coming in, turning your blue ocean into a red ocean, or market saturation in the US, or Russia having a problem, is something that is very problematic. But something that the business can do anything about? Can you change your business model, for example? And that's what I wanted to speak about today, because Netflix has actually said that it wants to put out ads. Yeah. Now, can you imagine a Netflix with ads? I certainly can't, but Netflix is saying maybe it is going to have a specific kind of ad-driven business model as well. Look, it's not as if I can't imagine any streaming service, any OTT service with advertising. I can imagine Amazon Prime Video with it, or any other thing which was designed as a freemium service like YouTube with advertising, and you paying as a subscriber. When you pay for something which is a different price, then you get it without advertising. I can get that. The fact is, Netflix has always talked about the fact that it is ad-free content, whether it was, when they gave it as just downloads, or even before that, when they gave it on, actual physical stuff, which they ship to people. It was always a company that was ahead in technology, ahead in content, which they seem to be still with their Squid Games and Bridgertons and stuff like that. So no complaints about the content yet, even though some people do say that the Netflix quality of Your was always good, but you always have these naysayers. Essentially, you have a Netflix which has never gone the ad way, and it is inconceivable for human behavior to change and to suddenly accept that, okay, Netflix has also started putting ads. But that doesn't mean that human behavior can't change. And it is something that needs to be managed at a user experience level. Because the moment we manage it at a user experience level, wherein people who are paying for their subscription suddenly don't get inundated with ads, seem to be okay. But why is Netflix even considering this, right? It losing subscribers, is it sending shockwaves into the system that is Netflix, because they're so used to growth that they can't really take in anything which is like a subscriber loss? And even though there are absolutely understandable conditions like we just listed out, well, it's more than that. I mean, shares have declined by about 20%. The company stock is plunging because of the news of the subscriber declines. And Netflix market share over the past 2 years has been declining. Now, that's also possible because of the competition. And now it seems to be, one final issue that seems to be impacting them. Now, over a period of time, people who have been significantly big investors, I think there was one big investor, I forget the name, who made over a 1 billion investment in Netflix as a major shareholder, immediately took out that investment, stating that they don't understand Netflix's business model anymore and its fluidity in the current market landscape, which is why they don't want to take a risk for their shareholders because they represent a hedge fund or something like that. So Netflix is having issues with its shareholders and share prices. But the only way in which a move like this works is if you're understanding that your primary markets and your primary audiences are just the tip of the iceberg. I just wanted to present a different theory, which I think perhaps is at the heart of the Netflix decision for perhaps considering the advertising route. First, let's understand that Netflix is a pretty innovative company. Second, let's understand that it is no stranger towards considering different routes towards market, right? It's looked at, download, streaming, etc., that we spoke of. Third, if you recall a particular podcast of mine, if you've heard it, it was about how Netflix is taking on Amazon or considering taking on Amazon by introducing shopping, going into e-commerce. And will it work or won't it was what I discussed in that specific episode. But it's no stranger towards considering different business models, right? So that's step one. Combine the fact that there is huge amount of competition that has come up, and the US market and the Canadian market and perhaps the European market is either slowing down or reacting badly to it, or there's too much of competition. It looks at the rest of the world as where its growth is. Now, if you look at the rest of the world, including India, Southeast Asia, whichever way you want to look at it, perhaps they've figured out that they are not so averse to accepting advertising. So, what Netflix, possibly the big bet that they're looking at, is going beyond their existing markets and existing audiences towards new audiences by making a radical shift and providing content which is not currently being consumed by those audiences across emerging markets. And that is where their boldness might be coming from in order to change their format. Now, they stand the risk of pissing off their existing user base, which is not insignificant at all. But if you compare it to, say, a YouTube, it's nothing, right? It's absolutely nothing. If you look at Netflix's 200 plus million subscribers to where YouTube is near a billion or something, I think Netflix is going for a bigger shot. Of course, the second possibility is not so good one for Netflix, wherein they are just responding to share prices dropping, shareholders pulling out, and maybe them facing the heat of the subscriber loss and them panicking and trying to put up a good show or a better show next quarter, right? Of course, I suspect reality is in between the two. But I certainly would love to do a rant on one of my other episodes on how perhaps shareholder pricing is the bane, or looking at shareholder pricing is probably the bane for innovation across a lot of companies that we see. But that's for another episode. I think this episode was about analyzing Netflix's move into advertising territory. I hope you like this episode. Many more to come from where this came from with Smarter with Sid. And I think that if you like or genuinely are enjoying this content, do subscribe to this channel and do check out the IVM stuff. They've got plenty of fantastic other podcasts out there that you might enjoy. And hey, if you like me, I'm the Traveling Professor, and you can always connect with me on LinkedIn and on Instagram.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, the real-life Suryavanshi Vishwas Nagare Patil joins CP Law & Order, talks to Cyrus about his new book, Head Held High. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam talks to Anusha Ramakrishna and Anisha Dosa, co-founders at Jiffy. They discuss the concept of earned wage access and its benefits. Hans Vani completes 100 episodes. Listen to this inspiring story of a boy's struggle called Shambuk, Platform or Pilla. On The Habit Coach, Ashton shares tips of how we can make our lives 10 times better. And on All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk analyze China's recently announced National Computing Network. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, please don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And remember, you can always check us out on YouTube. We have a number of channels. You can go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to take a look at what those channels are. We're also doing a small listener survey to understand how you respond to our shows and the advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It really helps us build better shows for you and understand what you're looking for from advertising and what we can talk to advertisers about who you are. Please go to ivmpodcast.com/survey. It really would help us out. Thank you so much. And finally, would like to thank our sponsors for the network this week, SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Do you wonder why China does the things that it does? Or want to know how we could improve online privacy? Or perhaps you're thinking about how we can kickstart India's economy. If you'd like to search for the answers to such questions, check out All Things Policy, a daily public policy podcast that covers everything from employment figures to aircraft carriers. Tune in from Monday to Friday for new episodes and fresh takes.